good morning, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. Happy World Ocean Week to everybody, but it has come to that stage of the week. I can't believe it already. We are at our final live event. It's been an awesome week in partnership with the Explorers Club. In fact, here I am in downtown New York in the map room broadcasting live at the Explorers Club. Let's look at some of the cool stuff we have around here. We've been connecting with scientists, explorers, conservationists, filmmakers, artists, and learning about all the ways that they're trying to document, to protect, and to research our planet's ocean, which we know we can't survive without. It's so important that we protect our ocean. All of the events from the previous week can be found on our YouTube channel. There's a playlist at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants on YouTube, World Ocean Week 2022. You can also find them on the website, exploringbytheseat.com/Ocean Week. We'll have all the events posted there as well, so you can check them out. But we have a great event to kind of cap things off for the week. We are heading live to the Florida Keys to the Turtle Hospital. So the Turtle Hospital opened in 1986. The Turtle Hospital contains the up-to-date equipment needed to perform a variety of surgeries on different species and sizes of sea turtles. So you may already know there's 7 species of sea turtles in the world, and 5 of those 7 are found in Florida. So the Sea Turtle Hospital is working to educate the public, to assist with research, to work towards environmental protections, and of course to rehab injured sea turtles and get them back into the wild. So we have Chrissy joining us live today. Let me bring Chrissy in. Hi, Chrissy. How you doing?
Hello. You guys hear me?
We got you, Chrissy. It's so great to have you joining us.
All right, so welcome to Turtle Hospital. I'm going to tell you about the species of sea turtles we have and things we do and what you can do to help the turtles. So happy World Ocean Day. So before me here, I have a green sea turtle. Now, green sea turtles get to be about 500 pounds, 3.5, 4 feet long. And they're not actually known because they're green on the outside. They're actually green on the inside. So due to their diet of seagrass and algae, it gives them a very green fatty tissue, and they're known for their green meat instead. Sailors that would travel in the ocean used to round up these green sea turtles and throw them on board their ships on their backs. So when a sea turtle is upside down, it cannot right itself. It's called a stay put position. They can stay out of the water for a long period of time. They used to provide the sailors a fresh meat for the long voyages. Here in the Keys, we had a turtle cannery. They would can that meat for stews and soups. But in 1973, they passed the Endangered Species Act. You can no longer harvest them for their meat, shell, eggs, or leather, but other countries eat their eggs, just like we eat chicken eggs here in the States. Now, this is Chance. He's been with us for quite a while now. He was actually hit by a boat. The top part of their shell is called the carapace. The underneath side is called plastron. Each one of the individual sections are called scutes. And it's made of the same stuff your fingernail is, which is keratin. Sometimes when they get hit with boats or jet skis or some blunt force trauma happens to their shell, their spine gets hit and they become what we call paralyzed. If you'll notice, he really doesn't move his back flippers very much. He has no control over them. And sometimes air will get trapped inside their shell. Well, it's like putting a life jacket on. With a life jacket on, these turtles can't be returned back to the wild because they can't get down to forage for their food. So what we do from here, and you're going to see some other turtles, we attach these lead weights to their shell. They're going to be these round discs on their back of the turtle shell, and it makes their bottom go in the water. Now, we had the first recorded turtle here with it in 1989. His name was Bubble Butt. And every turtle after that, it was actually called the Bubble Butt Syndrome for a very long time. The white spot on the part of his shell, that's where he just lost his lead weight. He just had a physical, so we're waiting to get some samples from him. And we got to wait for that shell to heal and peel a little bit before we can add another lead weight. So he's just up here chilling for right now. These tanks are kind of like their own personal hospital bed. Most of them are going through different stages of care. And over here, I have a different species. Now, this is what we call a juvenile Kemp's Ridleys. Kemp's Ridleys only get to be about 100 pounds and 2 feet long. They like to eat crustaceans like shrimps and crabs and snails, but they're also known as the ghost turtle because of their coloring. So they range from a yellowish to a grayish in color, and that helps them hide in the sandy bottoms of the Gulf of Mexico. I also have another little one over here. And the funny thing is, the people that rescue them are the ones who namely name the turtles here. But when we get a bunch of these little guys, they're what we call cold stun. And we got them back in November or December, excuse me, December 20th. We got 20 of these little guys at one day. They didn't quite migrate south in time for the summer, and they got stuck on cold water temperatures. They become very lethargic and weak, and they get abrasions and pneumonia and predator attacks. And this happens every year. A New England aquarium can't handle 13 to 1,500 turtles, so they dish them out to other facilities, and we're at the end of the line, so we got 20 turtles in one day. So right here is Flurry. He's one of the ones we still have left here. And Yukon Cornelius was the other one. He's in still critical condition. And once they get all healed up, we won't take them back to Cape Cod. The water temperature out there is still way too cold. So one of the places they like to release them at is Kennedy Space Center or Cape Canaveral. That's where the rockets are launched from. So it's restricted water. You're not going to find boaters or fishermen in there. It's military protected. So it's more like a sanctuary for these little turtles. Now, the way you tell a turtle's age, it usually goes by the size of their shell and how much they weigh. They actually get put in a category of a hatchling, a post-hatchling, a juvenile, a subadult, or adult turtle. To get their actual age, you have to go by their bone. And, you can only tell that with a deceased turtle. So, but this little guy is doing pretty good. They have to have laser treatments on their flippers. They've had some sore flippers, but they're getting better. It's just taking some time. Over here, I have another juvenile green turtle. Now, this little turtle was actually transferred to us from another facility. We don't have a mass capacity. We can break down tanks into smaller tanks. We have a lot of space here. Other facilities do, and sometimes we get to transfer turtles. This is Walter. Walter is actually a girl, and she has something called Fibropapilloma tumors. We see a lot of the green turtles that come into us looking like this. And so if we're dumping pesticides and fertilizers, oil spills, plastics, any chemicals that are going into the water stream and trash, will break down into their seagrass beds and algae, and it breaks down their immune system, and they break out into this herpes-like virus. It's called a fibropapilloma tumor. It grows in a cauliflower shape around their eyes. They can't see, mouths they can't eat, flippers they can't swim. And so then we'll do surgeries to remove these tumors. We have a CO2 laser, kind of looks like a light Luke Skywalker saber. It's a small version of it, very small. And it removes the tumors, and then they'll be tumor free for 6 months to a year, and then we'll send them back into the ocean where they came from. So Walter will eventually go back, but it's just going to take time to get those tumors off. We just can't remove them all at one time. They'd have no skin left. They have to be done in stages. But this is the biggest thing we see here. But Sunny here was also attacked by a shark. You can see that shark bite on them. He also has tumors. Sharks sometimes won't always eat the whole turtle. They'll take a snack, a flipper here, flipper there, save the turtle for another day. But how can you tell a turtle's been attacked by a shark if they still have 4 flippers, a head, a tail, and no chunk marks out of their shell? They'll have what we call rake lines on their shell. There'll be all these scratch lines all over their shell. That is actually due to the shark's teeth. Sea turtles can actually do burst speeds of 35 miles an hour, and they will twist, turn, and maneuver their body and put their shell right up the shark's mouth, using it like a teenage mutant ninja turtle shield. So now, if that wound is being cared for, but you and I get a cut, you'll tend to wash it with soap and water. You put antibiotic ointment on it, and you'll cover the Band-Aid, right? Well, you'll never guess what we use for antiseptic. It's actually something that bees make that you eat. It's honey. If it's a deep wound, we'll sometimes pack a raw honeycomb. We use a lot of meta honey as well. And thanks to some lovely beekeepers, we are very well stocked. Now, as far as a Band-Aid to fix a broken shell, well, there are a couple different things we've used throughout the years. Denture adhesive. I don't know who would have thought of that other than a dentist. Bone cement, marine epoxy, something called hooves glue. It's not made of horses, but it is a horseshoe glue. Think about it. Horses' hooves are made of keratin. Same stuff your fingernail is, same stuff their shell is, and it dries very quickly. The last thing we use, it actually makes our hospital smell like a nail salon. It's acrylic. Same thing you ladies use on nails. Pretty cool, huh? Over here is Luna. And she's in a very shallow amount of water. We just want her to get the rest that she needs. You can see the big old nasty tumors on her, but she did have one surgery the other day. Her eyes were covered, and that was making like a very sad and depressed turtle. She just kept running into the wall, so they don't want to swim. They don't want to eat either, but they have a very good sense of smell. They just don't feel like eating. Just by removing the tumors from their eyes, it'll perk up their personality and they'll swim and eat the next day. Our turtles, they get to go see a veterinarian ophthalmologist. That's a fancy word for an animal eye doctor. And she'll remove the tumors from their eyes and put them on these special cancer eye drops. Twice a day, they'll get taken out of the tank for eye drops, and twice a month, we compile like up to 7 turtles in the ambulance, and they all get to go on a field trip to Miami to the eye doctor. But they have to have one fully good working eye in order to return back to the ocean. So she's got one good eye at least, we know of. And then I got Brussels here. Brussels is doing very well. And we're right on the water. We don't actually have to make the salt water, we pump it in. We got a bunch of school groups coming through today as well. And our hospital is actually built on an old motel. And so the rooms, the rehab staff, like your nurses, they actually live here because they're on call 24/7 for a stranding or a turtle and overnight care. And we don't have to make the salt water. Like I said, we pump it in. And we have this big, huge pool here as well. And this houses a lot of our turtles that can't go back to the wild. And it's more a natural environment. I got little Karen there. She lost one of her lead weights. She's one of our bubble butts that can't go back to the wild. She's only been here a year as of this month. But this pool is the original swimming pool that was built with the motel. They didn't have a lot of freshwater pools. Freshwater had to be pumped in. Pretty expensive when you're on an island. So when the founder Richie Moretti purchased the property in the 80s, he did some upgrades and he put in a chlorine pool for his guests. I turned this into an environmental learning center. And he would stock it with all different kinds of tropical fish that you find here in the Keys, so that his guests staying at the hotel could come and snorkel with the fish. We'll leave it to the kids in a very popular show at that time. The kids would ask Mr. Moretti, well, hey, dude, where's all the turtles? Because back in the 80s is when the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were born. He thought that would be really cool to have a turtle here. But he found out you can't because they're an endangered species. But he also found out there was a great need to help the sick and injured turtles of the Keys. So by obtaining a permit through Florida Fish and Wildlife and having a local vet nearby, he was able to turn this into a rehabilitation center and from there into a full-blown hospital. We are the first hospital. We are the largest hospital. The fish he put in here died off throughout the years. The fish in here now, like I just saw my big parrotfish there, and there's a big 3 foot long snook and barracudas. Well, they come into these tubes. It's connected. So the water rises and falls. The fish come in when they're itty bitty. There's no real predators in here for the fish. So the fish get really big. They have a bunch of baby fish, and then we got to fish the fish out and throw them back in the ocean. There's even lobsters in here. There's eels, octopus, seahorses. You never know what's going to come through them tubes. But this pool houses a lot of the turtles that can't go back to the wild because of their injuries. Most of them have bubble butt, but not all of them. And due to those injuries, they would not survive. But guess what? They help save the other turtles. They are blood donors, and it has to be species to species. They don't actually have AB blood types like we do, but we do a blood cross match here. We have all the equipment to do that. April here is actually blind. He's not one of my bubble butts. He can't see. He's been here since 1991. And one eye is entirely missing. The other eye you can see a little bit of shadows out of. I got Smalls and Crook and little Buddy there. He's only been here a couple months there. And over there's Sam and Sequoia. Coasty. Now, Coasty here, the guy with the square weight swimming towards us right now, Coasty was actually rescued by the Coast Guard back in 1999, but his bubble butt has stunted his growth. He has not grown at all since 99. Yep, there's my barracuda down there, if you could see that big old fish as well. And Toby. And Montel doesn't have bubble butt either, but this turtle's had a lot of drama in its life. Montel only has half of a front flipper. I actually lost a flipper due to a shark attack, the other flipper due to fishing line. There's a notch in the side where Montel was hit by a boat, and Montel's missing an eye due to tumors. Then last year, we found out Montel's a girl. Now, the only way you can tell a boy from a girl by looking at them is once they're over the age of 25. Adult boys have really thick, fat tails that go past their shell or carapace, and females have these little bitty tails. Now, we do know what a lot of these turtles are, though, because when they come to us with the tumors on them, we have to do what we call an endoscope. We have to go inside of them and make sure there are no internal tumors. When there, we usually find out what their gender is, but we will not do an invasive scope just to find out the gender of a sea turtle. That huge one there, Hanson Bowie. We're actually, in a way, very excited to have her with us. She was rescued 5 years ago this June, and when she came in, she had a bit of jewelry on her flipper. It's actually what we call a flipper tag. It has letters and numbers on one side. The other side says reward to the biology department of, and the flipper tags are actually known worldwide. Here, they also get a pit tag. But when she was here, she was here in 1994 because it's her second visit. She was actually here from 1994 to 1997. She was under a fibropapilloma tumor study and released in November of 97, and she weighed 35 pounds. She doesn't weigh 35 pounds anymore. She's actually our largest turtle. Her last weigh-in, she weighed 350 pounds, which she could even weigh more than that now. But in the 35-year history of the hospital, we've only had 3 turtles ever return for a second visit. The other 2 are loggerheads, and she's the first screen. So, but you can see on the back of her where something hit her. So she has bubble butt now and can't go back to the wild due to her injuries. But she is a very large girl. She's the largest one we have here right now. But I do have some really tiny ones too. They're not babies. They're less than a year old though. We're going to go see. And I actually have 3 species we're going to see in here. So down here, I have a Kemp's Ridley, is this little one right there. Then I have a loggerhead named Curtis. Something thought he was a chew toy. All 4 of his flippers, his head has been gnawed on. Another loggerhead here. Another loggerhead. And this is a hawksbill turtle. Both of these are hawksbills. Now, hawksbills get their name because they have a bird's-like beak like a hawk does. And they get to be about 100, 150 pounds. And they like to eat corals and sponges. But inside those certain corals and sponges, there's a glass-like shard material. It'd be like eating a mouthful of broken glass. But it's also what gives them a beautiful shell. These guys, that's what gets them in trouble. They're actually hunted for their shell. Their shell is made into something called tortoise rim glasses and jewelry and guitar picks. So, but he's a little guy. And over here, the other little one is Coconut. Now, the funny thing is about Coconut, a few weeks back, we had some really nasty storms out there. And it doesn't always have to be a tropical storm, even though we just had Tropical Storm Alex come through. We'll have what we call gale force winds. And it blows all that sargassum and seagrass into the docks, beaches, marinas, and mangroves, right? Well, there's some people out in the water, and they thought it was a coconut in the mangroves. And then it moved, and they realized, hey, that's not a coconut, that's a turtle. So they picked it up, brought it in, and they named it Coconut. He's just actually waiting for a boat captain to give him a ride back out there. He's probably just beat up from the storms, but he was just tired out. He's doing very well. But the little one, Curtis, that was a chew toy, and Raven even has a little, the Kemp's really has a triangle in her flipper. Something thought they were food. Only 1 in 1,000 of these little guys will actually make it to adulthood because birds, crabs, bayfish, sharks, raccoons, everything wants to eat them. So by keeping them here until, for a little while, just gives them a little bit of a better start. They get to eat some really good food and grow a little bit bigger, and then we're going to get them back out. They're actually scheduled to go out any day now. We're just waiting for a nice kind of sunny day and some time to get them out there. But they're ready to go, all of them. Even the little one who only has 3 flippers. He passed the swim test. May 1st, October 31st, for the state of Florida, lights out on the beach, turtles dig in the dark. So they see artificial light, they tend to go toward that light. They'll end up at swimming pools and parking lots and all kinds of places they shouldn't. So you might see red lights up and down the color of the beaches. That is the color they kind of filter out to hopefully not get them disoriented. So down here we start about April 15th because our turtles like to nest early. But the biggest turtle the babies have is the first years of life, they live at the Sargasso seaweed patches. Those big floating patches in the ocean, there's their baby food. It's a nursery of snails and jellyfish and bivalves and all that food that they get to eat and grow really big the first years of life. But unfortunately, those are now trash dumps because all the trash that floats in the ocean has to stop when it hits something. It hits a sargasso, breaks down into smaller pieces of trash. A lot of those babies, if they can fit it in their mouth, they're like toddlers. They'll eat it. They'll eat anything they can fit in their mouth, and that's a lot of trash. So they'll eat anything that they can. So they eat a bunch of trash and they don't make it because of all the trash they eat, unfortunately. And we keep it covered because if a raccoon or something were coming, they're still lunch size. Not so much for a bird anymore. If you notice too, the loggerheads and the Kemp's have a little ridge on their back. It's actually called a keel. And it just makes them look tougher to a predator. It gives them that dinosaur and prehistoric look to their shell. But they are really, really cute. And down here, I got two more little ones. And we did a Facebook and Instagram name game. Instagram name game. And the public chose mac and cheese for them. And so they get to be our little ambassadors here at the hospital. They get to go on field trips to schools, summer camps, outreach program, library festivals, and every year one of them gets to go to church. They go usually to the Blessing of the Pets of the Catholic Church. But they'll be with us for 2 years, and when they go back out to the wild, they'll be about 2 feet long. At that size, the only predator they're going to have to worry about are sharks. In the meantime, they just get to chill, eat a lot of good food, and relax. But if you notice on their flippers, they have nails on those flippers too. And most of the turtles have nails. They use them for a couple different reasons. Sea turtles cannot pull their heads or flippers inside their shell. They'll often dig holes like under corals and rocks, stuff their heads in the hole, tuck their flippers underneath them, and it makes them look like a rock. That's how they hide from sharks as they rest at the bottom. The back nails, when it's nesting season and they're trying to dig through all the sea oats and roots, those back nails will help rip up the roots as they dig an egg chamber. And then the funny thing they use them for too, their front ones, like a toothpick. If something gets stuck in their beak and they can't get it out, they'll run that flipper along with that nail and pluck it on out just like a big old toothpick. Then I got another one I want to show you. Now loggerheads though, they tend to be 450 pounds when they're fully grown, 3.5 feet long. And they get their name because they look like a log when they're floating in the surface. And boaters would be like, hey, there's a log in the water, log in the water. And then they'd pop their big old head out of the water and they realize it's not a log, it's a turtle. And so they called it a loggerhead. And they eat hard shell invertebrates like lobsters and crabs and horseshoe crabs and conch shells. Oops. They have a very powerful jaw. Their bite force is almost the same as a great white shark. And they have a tiny little brain. For such a large head when they're fully grown, their brain is only the size of your thumb. That's it. And this little guy is Grady. He was entangled in cargo net. His rescuers tried to release him right away, but he wouldn't swim and he wouldn't dive. And so they picked him up. I just think he was really exhausted, probably from trying to swim so long with those cargo net wrapped around him. He did have a rope burn around his neck and his flipper, but it's healing up very nicely. He won't be with us much longer, and he'll go back to the wild soon. Cover him. And then I have a huge one over here who's in what I call a permanent timeout. This is little fat Brianna. We did not name her that. Her rescuers named her that. I would have named her a meatball because she looked like when she came in. She was hit by a boat. She also has that bubble butt syndrome. Loggerheads tend to be territorial and aggressive. You cannot put two loggerheads together. No, I do have one loggerhead named Medea over there in the main pool with the other green turtles there. But this one, she doesn't like anybody. We have tried. And she actually has a big aquarium she had been waiting for her over in London to go to. And then COVID hit, so she wasn't allowed to fly. So we're not sure if she's still going to make it there yet or not. But she can't go back to the wild because of her bubble butt syndrome. And with them being territorial, in the corner over there next to her is a Lily, another loggerhead turtle. And they actually fight at the fence sometimes. They don't really get along very well, so we have to keep them separated. But loggerheads tend to be territorial. You can put one loggerhead in with a bunch of species. You just can't put two loggerheads together a lot of times. Over here are some more of what I call my Beast to Beauty stories. Chief here had a lot of tumors removed. He's looking quite well now. But this is what Chief looked like when he came in. See all that sargasso grasses growing on him and algae and stuff. So sea turtles have to come to the surface to breathe. When they're not feeling well, they're going to hang out close to the surface, and photosynthesis will set in, and algae will grow because fish can't get on their shell to clean it off. And then they're moving so slow, they develop a whole habitat. Gingerbread here didn't want to eat when she came in. And so normally we don't go out and mow the grass beds. We'll feed them romaine, lettuce, pepper, squid, cucumbers. But we actually went out and pulled up some grass beds for her, trying to encourage her to eat. She's doing much better. She saw the eye doctor on this past week on Wednesday and got some tumors removed from her eyes. So she's doing better. She had to have 2 blood transfusions when she came in, though. Got a little tulip there. She's looking quite grand. Over here I have Spook. Spook got a jewelry piece on the back of his flipper, though. Sometimes they get on the front flipper, sometimes they get on the back flipper. And Spook's actually going to be going back to the wild soon. But Spook's also going through what I call a growth spurt. If you look at his scutes, they look like they're outlined white and blotchy. Well, in the wild, you'd see fish picking at their shell. Fish want a free meal. Well, they want sometimes the worms, the leeches, the leech eggs, things like that that want to get in and around those scutes. It kind of be like you and I getting something underneath your fingernail, and that would drive you crazy. It drives them crazy too. They'll often scratch their shells on corals and rocks, just like we use a nail file. We don't have corals and rocks in the tank, so we built in these PVC enrichment toys, and they use those toys to scratch their shells on when they get an itch. But Spook actually has a very unusual shell. There are actually extra scutes in his shell. The researchers believe this happens when they're inside the egg and the egg's just too warm sometimes. But he's very active. He's going to be going soon, hopefully. And Jessica here is a boy. She had some tumors removed the other day, too. And the one turtle I didn't talk about is the leatherback. We don't have any here right now. JT is scratching his shell for you. Leatherbacks tend to give you about 2,000 pounds, 6 feet long, and they eat almost their body weight a day in jellyfish. And they are deep divers, so that's why they need a leathery shell made of cartilage. A hard shell would crack under the kind of pressure that they go so deep down. But that's where you find the monstrous squid and monstrous jellyfish. And almost their body weight a day in jellyfish, and a jellyfish is mostly water, some of them. That's a lot of water they drink in one day through a jellyfish. Think about it. So plastic bags in the ocean are very bad. All these animals, actually, all these species eat jellyfish at one point in their lives. And, plastic looks like jellyfish. Little white pieces of plastic look like snails and crabs. So it's really important to make our ocean much, cleaner and be good stewards of our environment for these animals. And I got Torty here. She's had a lot of tumor, but she's doing really good. And then most of her lifting is all muscle power. I do have one elevator here we use to lift the hefty turtles up with. Sometimes it takes 4 or more of us to move a turtle around this place because they're just very heavy, very awkward. And when they feel well, they don't like to be manhandled. They don't like to be moved. All right, I can start taking some questions if any of you have any questions at all.
All right. Great timing, Chrissy. I was just about to ask you if we could do some questions. Perfect. Okay. Well, we're going to take questions from our camera classrooms. We'll take questions from YouTube. So let's get started. We are going to go to our first classroom, Miss D's classroom. It looks like they're in New Jersey. I'm going to bring them in for us. Hey, Miss D's class, how we doing?
Say good. All right, Gemma, you can come on up. The camera's over here just so we can hear you a little bit better.
Nice and loud for us.
Why was Coconut separated from the other turtles?
So she said, why was... Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
So Coconut just came in. She's still a very smaller turtle yet. And the other ones have kind of been together for a while. We had to get a sample from her. Sometimes when they come in, they can have intestinal parasites or something else wrong with them. So we just want to make sure she's safe for right now. And then she'll get introduced with the other turtles. They're actually all going to be going back to the wild soon. So.
All right. Do you have another quick one, Miss D's class?
Jenna, did you have a question? Come on up, Jenna. Just so we can hear a little better.
How do you know the difference between turtles? Like, how do you know the difference between them?
You mean between the species of turtles?
Yeah, types of turtles?
Yeah.
Yes. How do you know the difference?
Okay. So sea turtles have flippers. Freshwater turtles have web feet. Terrapins have web feet. And tortoises have stumpy feet, like elephants. And tortoises don't swim very well. That's the way you can tell the difference. Sea turtles cannot pull their heads inside their shell or their flippers. Other species can.
All right, very cool. Let's grab another one of our classrooms here. Let's see. This time we're going to go to Toronto, Ontario, jumping up to Canada. Let's bring our group in. We've got Mrs. Ayers' crew and Mrs. Nako's class. How's it going today, Toronto?
Hi, we're great. We want to say a big hello. Hi, hello. Hello. And a big thank you to you, Christy and Joe, for bringing us to you. We brainstormed before we met you, so I'm just going to group two questions together. How many turtles do you think you've saved since you opened in the 80s? And what would you say is the hardest thing to treat in a sea turtle?
So it's hard to say. We know we've released over 2,000 turtles back to the wild, okay? And that's not including the babies. And some of our turtles that can't go back to the wild have already been moved to other zoos or aquariums. So there's over 2,000 that we've returned to the ocean, though, not including the babies. And the hardest thing to treat, I think, sometimes would be what we call their impactions. When they eat a bunch of stuff and their intestines gets all blocked up and they can't go to the bathroom. Because you don't always know what's in there. It could be shards of plastic or something that could actually cut them. And sometimes you actually got to do a surgery on a turtle to remove it. And that could be, you can't go through the shell. We usually go through the leg cavity. So it can be a very delicate surgery for them. The tumors, we use the lasers to remove them. But yeah, sometimes I think they're impactions because you never know what's going to come out of them too when they go to the bathroom, when it does finally come out.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Awesome. Thank you for those questions. YouTube, let's see what we have on YouTube. So let's see. Miss Gale's class would like to know, does the Turtle Hospital ever deal with the eggs? Do you guys ever incubate any eggs, or is it just the hatch turtles?
It's pretty much just the hatch turtles here. A lot of times, what most people don't realize is mama turtle doesn't lay one nest. She'll actually lay 4 to 7 nests a season, and then she'll take 2 to 3 years off. And so a lot of times if the turtle has eggs inside of her, she's going to have to get rid of those eggs because she knows there's more eggs building behind those eggs. So otherwise she'll get what's called an egg impaction. The way I like to explain it to kids is sometimes if you're trying to put peas in a straw and one pea gets stuck, the rest of them can't come out. And so, that's the same way with the turtles. Those eggs can get stuck in there and they can get what's called an egg impaction. We did have a turtle a few years back that came in. We tried to incubate the eggs, but nothing ever happened to them. I believe Miami Zoo or Miami Aquarium, one of the two, just had a turtle that came in, and she had eggs, and they're trying to incubate those eggs too. So we'll see if those hatch.
Okay. Let's go back to another one of our camera classrooms. We've got some 4th and 5th graders joining us from California. Let me bring them into the call here. We've got Rice's Reboot. How we doing?
We are doing great.
Awesome.
We are doing great. Let's see if I can change this. Questions, boys and girls, turn on your cameras and get ready to ask some questions. How's that? Is that better? There we are. Awesome. I got a couple kids with their hands raised. Malachi, why don't you go first?
How do turtles get brain tumors?
How do they get those tumors? So we all have viruses in us. They just don't come out unless our immune system's suppressed. And these turtles are so little. They're somewhere between a toddler and a teenager that they don't have that immune system built up. So when they start feeding on toxic grass beds and swimming in toxic water, it's like feeding a baby poison. And you wouldn't feed a baby poison, so it breaks down their immune system and the virus comes out in the way of these cauliflower-shaped tumors. And they grow, as long as they're on the outside, we can usually help the turtles. Unfortunately, if it's on the inside, it's usually death to a turtle because it's already gotten too far and we can't help them.
All right, how about Isaiah?
How come only one species of turtles only have claws?
Oh no, there's the Florida turtles, 4 of the 5 species all have the claws.
Why do some have claws and some don't?
Well, the leatherbacks, they have bigger flippers. They're much, much longer. And I think because they eat jellyfish, if you ever looked inside of the mouth of a leatherback turtle, they have what's called papillolia. Their whole mouth is one big million spikes. And it's like, that's why they keep the jellyfish going down. And, but they use it to help tear up their food. And, but leatherbacks have bigger flippers. So they use it, the other turtles use it for mating season too.
Thank you so much for all this information. I find this extremely interesting. I have a question about the tumors. What do scientists think causes these tumors?
So we all just don't call these turtles. Some have the virus in it already. It's once they start feeding on toxic grass feds like pesticides, fertilizers, spills, it's like feeding a baby poison. Now, I do mention, like a little over a year ago, we had a loggerhead come in with the largest tumor I've ever seen. It was a 14.2-pound tumor. It was bigger than a basketball. And loggerheads don't really eat grass feds. But there are also turtles that actually crossbreed. We have hybrids out there. So I always say, well, how did it, who's to say that a turtle doesn't have a little DNA of green in it, being a loggerhead? And the other thing is I call it the blood bugs. You know how we have ticks and lice of the wild that spread diseases? Well, there are leeches in the ocean. Who's to say those leeches don't spread the diseases as well?
All right. Thank you so much for those questions. Very cool. We've got a group in Oshawa joining us, Northern Dancer Public School. How are we doing today, Oshawa? I bet you have lots of questions for us. Let's take a couple questions.
Oh my golly. And actually, they brainstormed some amazing questions, but a lot of them were answered. But Kai has a question. So Kai, take this off. Go ahead, Kai.
What is the oldest turtle that you have rescued?
That is hard to say. It is hard to say because you really don't know the age of the turtle. We used to have a turtle here that came to us in 1989. His name was Bubble Butt. He was the first recorded turtle ever with the air inside of his shell. Unfortunately, he just passed away a little over a month ago, and he had been with us for 33 years. But like I said, with Coastie over there, that one over there, he was actually rescued by the Coast Guard back in 1999. But his bubble butt has stunted his growth. He hasn't grown at all. He's only the size of a juvenile, but his age, he'd be an adult turtle right about now.
Thank you for answering that. Hassan, did you have one more question? Okay, we have Hassan that wants to ask a question.
Have you ever rescued turtle eggs?
Actually, that's my second job. I actually work with the nesting beaches here in Marathon. I've been doing it for 7 years now. I actually already have 5 nests this year. And I go by what the turtle says, that they're going to predict it's going to be a busy hurricane season. Because there's an old folktale that says, if the turtles are digging high on the beach, it's going to be a bad hurricane season because they're digging very high up to avoid that storm surge. And so far, my turtles are nesting pretty high this year. In the dunes, in the woods, in the vegetation. We already had our tropical storm number 1 come through on Friday, so.
Oh dear. Well, I hope everybody stays safe and turtles as well. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you for those great questions,
for visiting.
boys and girls. Good to see ya. Thanks. All right, I think we can maybe try and squeeze one more in from YouTube here. So let's see. Oh, so this question here is from Miss O'Hanlon's crew who are tuning in, and they're wondering, are there any tools that are used if you have to go out to do a rescue of a sea turtle? Any special tools you use?
That's a very good question. Very good question. We use netting. We have like nets that we use to catch the turtles. And then we have, we don't actually have a rescue boat. We actually have kayaks in our ambulances. But actually, a lot of times it's not us that actually rescue the turtles. It's the people out on the water that rescue them, the boaters out there. And they'll call us and say, hey, there's a turtle floating. It doesn't seem like it can dive or it's entangled in fishing line. And a lot of times the first thing we're going to ask them is, can you get that turtle on board your boat, dock, or marina? Because by the time we get out there, it's going to float away. it'll drown, or it'll be attacked by predators. And so then we'll go meet them at a dock somewhere. Now, if they can't get it on board their boat, well, we have the Coast Guard next door. We can jump on their boat, or Florida Fish and Wildlife will also help us out if they're in the area and go help rescue that turtle as well. And then we'll go pick it up somewhere.
All right, I'm going to turn my camera back on here. And I want to start off with a huge shout out to all of our classrooms. Thank you so much for the great questions. Thank you so much for being with us today. And also, I know many of these classrooms have been joining us all week for the Ocean event. So great to see familiar classrooms, new classrooms. Yeah, go ahead, Chrissy.
Next week is World Sea Turtle Day on June 16th. So tune in for turtles that day if you got a chance to. About all the species of the ocean. There's also, it's the launch of the Tour Day Turtles. Every year, a bunch of facilities put a turtle as satellite tracker, and you can follow those turtles through tourdayturtles.org. Ours will start their race on August 1st. So we'll be doing a turtle hopefully with satellite tracker, and you can track the turtles to see where they go. It's kind of a neat race to watch and follow. So root for our turtles, because ours are not exciting. We usually get last place, so.
That's really cool. Is that if they go to the
turtle do something?
If they go to the Turtle Hospital website, can they find all the information?
It's called. Usually you can find it when we put our turtle in the water through tourdayturtles.org. The leatherback start on June 16th, World Turtle Day. Leatherbacks can do like 10,000 miles in a year time. Just can't beat a leatherback. Little last name 100. So.
Okay. I'm also going to share a link here before we sign off to the Turtle Hospital website. So another spot you can visit to learn more about the work is turtlehospital.org. Look at those turtles. I love looking at them. It's hard to tear away. I'm going to let our classrooms in right now, and let's let them make a little noise. Maybe the sea turtles can hear them if they're loud enough. So I'm going to open up.
We're going to make a noise.
Here, if you want to make a little Thank you so much, classrooms. Chrissy, thank you so much to the Turtle Hospital. Thank you for another great visit. It was amazing. You guys do incredible work. Oh, I think we lost Chrissy's sound, but Chrissy, thank you so much. Thank you to the turtles. Keep up the great work. We can't wait to visit again in the new school year. For now, we're going to sign off.